there, I've got a fun one for you this week. It should by all rights be a Fails from the Crypt, but if I'm honest with you, I enjoyed this film way too much to put the word fail anywhere near it. This is just a delight. I'm covering Body Bags, a little known horror from 1993, directed by legends John Carpenter and Tobe Hooper, and it is very special. You may not have heard of it, but trust me, this is worth watching, and if you like coverage of little-known, underappreciated horrors or deeper analysis of horror, you're on the right channel. Do me a favour and subscribe, and let's get to the video. This is a very odd, very special film, but I have to warn you in advance, this is not a high-quality copy of it that I've got. I could only find a 360p version. Oh yeah. This film is very odd, it's very special, it's very enjoyable, but I have to warn you before I show any of it that this isn't the high def that you're used to seeing. I'm afraid the best I could get is 360p resolution, not even 480, I'm sorry to say. Trust me, I tried to get my hands on a quality copy of this film, but it is an underappreciated and forgotten treasure, and as a result of that, it is not available easily. It is not on Netflix. You cannot rent it on Amazon Prime. You cannot find it on Google Play. Other parts of the internet were also not particularly fruitful. But I did find a copy right here on YouTube. This film is so overlooked that the draconian copyright detector just completely passes it by. Yay. So yeah, you can see it just as I did in its entirety on YouTube. In glorious 360p resolution. On the other hand though, free. I know you're all used to 1080p, but bear with me, just think of this as a New Year's resolution, okay? Now get comfy, put your feet up, I've made us some tea. I forgot how many sugars you take. It's, well, I've got 2 in the pink and 1 in the link, okay? So as I said, Body Bags is a 1993 horror anthology directed by John Carpenter, and I'm going to lay my biases on the table here. I absolutely adore horror anthologies, and I just can't be mad at a film that opens with John Carpenter completely hamming it up, framing all the stories and channeling his inner John Waters.
Let's go see what other fun things we can find to do.
Who even knew John Carpenter could do this? Now the term framing the stories might sound a little bit weird to you. What I mean by that is horror anthologies tend to have something like a framing device or a framing story for all the little stories within them. So 3 Extremes is an exception, 2 Evil Eyes is another exception, but pretty much all horror anthologies have a framing device. That is an overarching story through which the other stories are presented. The most common one is getting a group of strangers together for whatever reason and they all share a story. Now in the best examples of horror anthologies, that framing device itself is its own complete story and has a sort of kick itself. Some great examples of this are Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, and Asylum. Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, is actually one of the films that I tend to introduce people to horror with, and a really terrible example of this would be The House That Dripped Blood. There is no blood in the entire movie. I was livid. Anyway, John Carpenter's Further in the Rue Morgue is delightful. He's having a great time, and it's really not how I tend to think of John Carpenter. These framing scenes, they have this kind of glorious, ramshackle feel to them. It's kind of campy, and that's because this is pretty much just thrown together. Body Bags is actually reconstructed from what was meant to be a pilot for a Tales from the Crypt style TV show, except the network Showtime pulled out pretty early on. Rather than waste the footage and all the work they put into it, they just fairly hastily threw together these framing scenes and rebundled it into a movie. Okay, that might not sound like a great prospect for a movie, but this is also what happened to Mulholland Drive, so don't write it off.
And now this.
Also, it may be 360p resolution, but they put loads of screens in, so I kind of love them for that. Another delight of Body Bags is the sheer number of horror creator cameos. There's Wes Craven, Sam Raimi, Tobe Hooper, and I have to confess I didn't actually recognise Wes Craven, but I'm going to blame the resolution here. You also get these really fun performances from Stacy Keach, David Warner, Debbie Harry and Mark Hamill. Oh yeah. The stories are also fun, but because it's an anthology, it's very sort of mixed tonally, but it kind of works actually. Sensibly, it overall sticks to the sort of black comedy vibe that the Carpenter framing story gives the film. And that's pretty sensible because of that ramshackle feel. If they tried to be completely serious, completely straight-faced, it would look a little goofy. They're kind of smart to lean towards a sort of campy and black comedy vibe. Now, with that said, the first story, The Gas Station, is actually genuinely scary and a really great start to the film. It's very grounded in a believable, relatable setting. You know, it's a gas station at night. This is somewhere we've all been. It's something where the creepy is not hard to imagine. The soundtrack is also as great as you would expect a John Carpenter soundtrack to be, and his direction is the usual high caliber. And the execution may get a little bit messy at the end, but overall, it's a lot of fun. The build-up is excellent. The horror cameos are sweet, and there are some other cute horror in-jokes as well.
Are you from Haddonfield?
Born and raised.
On Halloween's when I did most of my slays. Killing out, maxing, relaxing all cool, and stalking Laurie Strode outside of the school. No apologies. Never apologies. You should know not to expect an apology by now. The middle story of Body Bags, called Hair, is much more comedy than horror, but to be honest, it's so much fun that I don't even mind.
I need quantity, I need volume, I need more hair.
More Lebensraum? It centres around a man obsessed with his hair loss and his desperate attempts to fix it. Stacy Keach is so great in this role that, you're on his side, you're still liking him, even as you are laughing at him. John Carpenter is really showing his comedy skills here, and it's something I guess I underappreciate him for. Anyway, the main character does find an unconventional fix to his hair loss thanks to David Warner. Aaron Ra? Anyway, for the horror side of things, there is actually some gross imagery in there that's quite memorable, and some CGI that for 1993 looks kind of good. It might just be low resolution though, I'm not actually sure. Overall, I can't say this was scary, but, it's so much fun that I can't be mad. I had a good time. The final story goes for the horror a bit more, but it's still quite goofy and fun. It is directed by Tobe Hooper of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and focuses on Mark Hamill as a baseball player who loses an eye and then gets an eye transplant, but starts to feel that his new eye is using him as much as he's using it. It's probably a familiar premise to you if you've watched season 2 of Angel, or if you've watched the Pang Brothers' The Eye, or its remake, but this is the earliest example of the story that I can remember. I might be wrong. There were some surprisingly nasty moments in it that I certainly didn't expect to see from Mark Hamill, but overall I'd have to say that the execution of it wasn't as tight. It was maybe a little sloppy, and for that reason I'd probably have to say it's the weakest segment of the film, but it's by no means unenjoyable, and there is the novelty factor of seeing Mark Hamill in a horror film. That is always going to do it for you. So while Body Bags is never consistently scary or extremely scary, I would say it's got this kind of ramshackle charm that makes it extremely enjoyable, even if it's never going to be in the top tier of horror anthologies. And the fact that it's so forgotten and overlooked and so full of cameos from horror insiders, I guess it kind of gives it a sort of inner appeal, a sort of insider appeal, a niche appeal. Like this is one I'd say is for horror completists. Thanks to a canny uploader right here on YouTube, you can see it for free, so why not? Hello Gatsby. However, if you want to see it in the high resolution that I'm sure it deserves, I would be remiss if I did not mention that there is a Blu-ray that was released in 2013 by Scream Factory, so it is possible to get a high quality version of the film. And on a personal note, I have a weirdly strong residual fondness for Body Bags from the days of Blockbuster Video. Way back in those days, I used to be torturously deliberating in the horror aisle, trying to work out which 2 films I'd take home, because that was my limit. I got 2 films, that was all my pocket money would cover. And the artwork for both Body Bags and Castle Freak always really stood out to me, even though I never chose them. I'm really glad to have fixed that now. Body Bags is a whole load of fun. I really recommend it. That's all from me this week. If you like what I do, please do subscribe if you're not subscribed already. And if I have mentioned your favourite horror anthology, show it some appreciation in the comments below. There have got to be some other Tales from the Dark Side the movie fans here. There has to be. That's all from me this week. Thanks, y'all. Cheers.
Durango 95 purred away real horror show.
Real Horror Show.